Hi, I'm Katia Malinga. Um, for the exercise 3, moral virtues, Aristotelianism, Aristotelianism. Um, the moral virtues, sorry, the moral virtue that I chose was shame. The reason why I had chose shame is from my understanding with the class notes, class lecture, and the reading. Is that shame is about checking yourself to ensuring that if you do something bad, that you correct yourself, alongside not overestimating your abilities when it comes to doing something, but also not underestimating your ability. And that way you can always work to being better. Since Aristotle, one of the thing that he's really passionate about is discussing how one can be true to themselves by being how one can be true to themselves, and by being true to themselves he essentially means like being honest with like their capabilities and their abilities of doing stuff, so they can just like help their community, which I find really beautiful. um so the reason why I chose this is just because I wanted to go I wanted to essentially try to do something that would force me to go against the norm. And I mean by that is that I feel like as like a marginalized person, as a black person obviously, um, and with like other marginalized identities, there is like a sense of shame that is like naturally like, in a way it feels ingrained in you. And so like the way Aristotle discusses shame, it being like so completely different, intrigues me, and I wanted to like practice that and just feeling a sense of like, oh, like this is good. Like I do not have to feel ashamed for like, you know, existing, taking up space, or like asking for help, or etc., etc. Um, I think a lot of the ways that I had partook with this had to was more so like inside, like more so like a lot of introspection, and just like questioning like the way that I do stuff, and seeing like, is it good? Like should I let the shame like stop me from doing it? And then I did it. Um, so I feel like that doesn't make sense when I say it, but I think examples give sense. So, for example, my grandfather on my mom's side has recently passed away. Friday, this coming Friday, is going to make it 2 weeks since he passed. And I am a very bad person when it comes to like converting people. I'm just really awkward. I'm really like I don't really know like what to say. I'm not what to say like the right words, and I just kind of like come off aloof. And I don't tend to mean to. It's just like the way that I just I do. If I don't do that, then I just come off as awkward. Um so I'm never winning. So I'm always like very like wary when people like talk to me about like when they're grieving, because I just don't know what to do. But because I was taking on Aristotle's moral virtue of shame, I sat down with my uncomfortableness. I just like sat down with it and I examined where it came from. And really, it just came from this idea of the fact that I wasn't perfect, and the way that I interact with people at times is can come off as awkward, and that's just because like of who I am as a person. And because of that, I was just more so like I was more so like, it made me real with myself, in the sense that I was just like, okay, like yes, this is true. I do come up as awkward sometimes. But people in my life, my mom specifically, because when she grieves, she's just like really depressed, and it's really sad to see her like not eat or drink, like people like in my life, like her, my siblings, like my grandma, are grieving, and I need to like not let the shame prevent me from like being there, if that makes sense. Like not let the way that we know what shame is in a societal sense prevent me from being there for her and for my family. And so you know, I noticed I was doing something bad, letting the shame that society has said is right stop me from calling my mom. So I like called her for a couple days consistently, asking her if she was eating food, asking her if she was drinking water, making sure that she was doing all of those things, like asking her if she's been sleeping. I called my grandma, being conscientious of the time zone because she lives in Congo, the Democratic Republic, and being conscientious of the time, and also just like her energy, knowing that like she's super sad and she's grieving, so like she won't be able to like talk to me and not really like taking offense to it. Yeah. So, second, since I've been grieving, it, I think, this is like the first time I've like been. It sounds weird, but I've been conscientious of the fact that I'm grieving, if that makes sense. And like usually I am really prone into just like getting stuck into grief, which is never good, and then feeling a sense of shame for being stuck in grief. But it's been very nice using both Stoicism's views of how grief occurs and how loss occurs, and how like we should be grateful that we got to be here with somebody that in our life, like for, because it's just like, you know, like it's 1 in a billion, like it's such a small possibility, but being grateful that I got to be here with this like other human being who means so much to me, and alongside with just like checking myself, really, like anytime I felt shame for like being sad, like I would use Aristotle's view of shame, and I'd be like, why am I feeling sad about this? Why am I feeling ashamed about feeling sad about this? Like it makes sense to feel sad about this, you know? And like I don't know, like it's been comforting. It's been very comforting. It's been making the whole grieving process for me like really nice. And it's like, especially because like when I got the news, I didn't cry, but I was talking to my brother and he told me that he was crying, he was sobbing. And at first I was just like, oh God, like I must be a terrible person because I didn't cry. And so like a lot of my shame came from that. But then I like, this is so dumb. I literally remember like Aristotle and like what he meant about shame, and how like if it's bad, like clock yourself, and it isn't bad, you shouldn't clock yourself. Like you shouldn't, like, you know, try to force yourself to do something that you know you can't do. That's just, you know, that's overestimating your energy, your time, your ability. And like I know just because like I didn't cry at that moment, or that I haven't cried since, doesn't mean I'm not gonna cry later. And even if I don't cry, it doesn't mean that I didn't love my grandfather. Um, yeah. 3. Sorry, it's gonna be a lot about grief. Um, Another thing is that my mom gave me the task where I had to write all of my siblings' thoughts and opinions about grief, and it was weird in the sense because I was like, why would she, like, not grief, about my grandfather. And it was weird in the sense because I was like, why would she ask me? Like, this felt weird. And a part of me, like, for a second, a part of me wanted to just like write like a whole paragraph, said that all of the kids wrote this, and just send it off to my mom. But like honestly, like shame, like the shame that Aristotle, like the moral virtue, like literally stopped me, because I was like, that's wrong. Like it made me feel dirty in a sense, because it was like my mom is entrusting me with like the ability to like have my siblings and I talk about our experience and our love with our grandfather, and they're gonna speak it in the funeral, where in a different language, French, Swahili, Chuluba, Lingala, like they're gonna like translate that. Like I could not do that. Like I couldn't do that. Like that's so messy. And so I just like, I like bother my siblings and I just was like, y'all need to do this. Like y'all need to get on your Zoom. Like y'all need to write something. Even if y'all don't think it's good, I promise it's good. And just being there for my siblings in a way, because I feel like before this, I didn't know how to be there for my siblings, because it's like, how do you comfort your siblings when you're also grieving? And how, like, it's just, it's very weird. It's a very weird process that I'm still not sure what the answer is. And I don't think there's an answer for that. But I think that, like, made me feel closer with my siblings, because I read their messages and I, like, told them that it was beautiful, because it was beautiful. And it also had inspired me to, like, write my own messages, where I essentially just, like, had used thoughts of, like, stoicism, of how like, like, I'm just so grateful for the fact that I had the chance to meet a man who I'm so happy and glad to call my grandfather. And, like, I don't know, it was very nice. It was cathartic. And, like, I even showed it to my brother, and, like, usually I have, like, shame. Usually I'd be, like, embarrassed, and it's like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. But, like, I don't know, I didn't. Like, I got to, like, a little, but, like, I, like, not really. And, like, he also agreed it was, like, a nice, like, ending to, like, what all my siblings wrote, so that makes me really happy. 5? I'm gonna say 5. I'm gonna say 4, actually. 4. Jesus Christ. Okay. So number one, and how it's actually really funny. So due to how shame works, is essentially just like a way for you to be, like, honest with yourself, and how honesty and truthfulness are another virtue, but that's usually, like, you being honest and truthful to other people, and how, like, shamefulness is just like, no, you just being honest to yourself and, like, understanding your abilities. It was nice because I was able to, like, incorporate both of those. Like, it helped me, like, see, like, oh my gosh, there's this connection, because, like, if you're honest to yourself, then you can be honest to the people that you care about, right? And so, like, for this one, I'm not even sure when this was. I think it was on Labor Day. Yeah, it was on Labor Day. So one of my very close friends, was very going through it, and my other friends and I, we were like, SOS, like, we need to create an intervention, because it was like, this is not good. Like, we're, like, deeply afraid they're gonna, like, commit suicide. And like, in a sense that it was, like, the harsh reality, in the sense that, like, I was being true to myself, being like, I am afraid of your mental health, and I do not want to see you 6 feet under, right? And so, like, because of that harsh reality, it also had me, like, be honest to them, being like, I am afraid of how bad your mental health has been lately. Here are all of the resources that we've found to help you if you wanted to go, like, inpatient, outpatient, like, whatever you want. We're here with you, mamas. Like, we got you. And so, like, I think that's something that I'm not saying that I don't think I would have done, because I would have done, but I don't think I would have done it with the same ease, if that makes sense. Because a part of me would have been like, no, like, no way. But it's like, like, in a time of crisis like that, like, I can't be thinking about myself, because I have to be like, okay, this is the hard, uncomfortable truth. Time for me to find a solution. Time for me to fix this. It will be fixed. We will, like, you know, we'll get on our Zoom. We will get on our Zoom. We will get on our Zoom. Okay. Now, this is definitely 4. I think that was 3. I'm so sorry. Okay. 4. What was 4? Oh my gosh. Can't believe I forgot. Okay. So 4, it like, because I mentioned and how like shame was just me realizing that it was just being true to yourself, and like, you know, just understanding on how to like correct yourself, and like in a way that's gentle and isn't like oppressive in the sense, in like, you know, like belittling yourself or being like super self-deprecating, which like, you know, goes counteractive of like the whole point. Even though like Aristotle does get a little iffy when he starts talking about shame in adults, but that's neither here or there. But no, what I was trying to say though is that my like aside from like grief, like I've just been going through like a very hard like time recently, and so like usually I tend to like isolate and I don't really talk to my friends about it, and that's just like, you know, because it comes from a sense of shame and no sense of like not wanting to like you know, put your baggage onto people, especially like your closest friends, and like not being a burden. And to like deviate a little bit, I had recently went to a Zoom meeting. It was with the author of Care Work, I forgot their name, and they were talking about ableism, and it was so interesting. They were talking about how like ableism, you can see it in the way that like, you know, sometimes you just don't want to like bother your friends because you see it as a bother, and how like this is really the cost of like colonialism, capitalism, white supremacy, anti-blackness, and like neurotypical supremacy, and it really just like I saw the Zoom was on Monday. Yeah, it was on Monday, but like it had like connected, like it made me like, oh my god, like this also ties in with like shame, and like, you know, because I was like, oh my god. And the reason why I'm saying this is because usually due to the way like shame has been conditioned in like in all of us, is the fact that like to ask for help is shameful, it is seen as bad, and so you're supposed to like suffer alone. But Aristotle would argue that that is incorrect. You have community, you should go out to your community if you're able to. And he would also say like shame, Aristotle's moral virtue of shame would also be like, that's incorrect, because you're doing nothing to help yourself, you are just suffering. It's not doing any good. Even if the good that you see is happening, it's not true good, you know. Which is why you have to be truthful with yourself, and you, by being truthful with yourself, you can be truthful with your friends. And that's such a long-winded way to say that this virtue just helped me be more comfortable with like just talking to my friends when I was like feeling really sad. Like, for example, like Monday had like this really big fight with like one of my friends. I'm not sure if we're friends, but it was so bad that like I like, because I work at El Hall, so I like left El Hall. I was like out at El Hall crying. I left El Hall, walking to my apartment crying. I came to my apartment crying, and it was like, it was so bad. It was such a bad day, and I was like crying. I was like really sad, but like I felt comfortable. Like after I could like, you know, calm myself down a little bit to like talk to my friends and just be honest with them, because it was just like, this is what you need. Like sometimes you really just, you need to like be honest with yourself, and to be honest with yourself you have to be honest with your friends too. And I think those two things must correlate, or like be honest with the people in your community, so you can't just be like, I don't, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but basically you can't be like, like I'm dating like a racist boyfriend. Like you can't be doing that. Like, that's weird. That's so weird. Shouldn't be doing that, you know. But you're like not racist. Somebody's lying. Ain't me. Sorry. Okay. I think this is 5. Yeah, this is day 5. What are we talking about? What happened in day 5? I don't know. I think I've talked about honesty. I talked about shame, talking to my friends. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't talked about this yet. Okay, so because again, like shame in the way like it is like ingrained in our society, and in a sense, like especially like if you have a marginalized identity, it just like feels like you can't really do anything. I think for me, the way that I had like thought about it was really just like thinking about like what are the ethics when it comes to the way that we interact with people, with people. It doesn't make sense, but like what I'm trying to say is that like after my grandfather passed, I thought a lot about morality, and that morality was never like in a suicidal like contemplation, but more so just like wow, like you really just like unironically you really do live once, like not to be cringe, like you really do live once, and like life really is just life, you know. And I don't know, it just made me think about like that, and then like how the interactions that we have with our friends and like the people in our life, and it really just had me like think like really like it's something that I'm still thinking about, on how like the way that Aristotle's view of shame has been so productive and so good, because I, I don't know, I felt like I got closer with some of my friends because we were just talking about the fact that like our grandparents had passed away, and just like I don't know, it was nice to be in a space where I could like grieve the fact that like, oh, like I couldn't go to the funeral because it's all the way in Congo and I'm here in Boston, you know. And like if I and also it would have just been weird because it would have been like the last time I was back, last time I was there was literally like like 2008, like I don't know, when I immigrated here, like, you know. So it kind of just like had me like think about like the weird sense of shame that comes with the fact that you can't go back to like your motherland, and like just knowing that like you have history there, but like some of your history, some of your ancestry are dying, but like you don't have like the ability to have language, like you don't like have the language to like speak to them. And so like I think like I don't know, I think just having that thought, and just like when it came to like shame and just truthfulness to like oneself and like other people, just allowed me not to feel like bad in a sense. I feel like especially when you're like an immigrant child, you're always feeling bad because like you should know the language, you should know this and that. But I think for me, I've just been like I can't willow and like be stuck in grief because it's gonna do nothing for me. I can't willow to the point where I'm like shame all the time. That's not gonna do anything for me. Yeah. And then I'm sorry for yeah, and then I guess 7. Yeah, so like day 7. I guess yeah, it is day 7. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, so I think a lot of like the last few days have just been like a mixture of just of day 7 of just like, you know, of what we're supposed to do, of me just like really just thinking really deeply about like what does it mean to be like an immigrant child, what does it mean to be a queer immigrant child, what does it mean to be a black queer immigrant child, you know, and just knowing that like like the way that society has conditioned shame into me, like I can't let that stop me. And I feel like by practicing like Aristotle's view of shame, it has just made me more honest. And by being more honest, I've been more friendly. Not in Aristotle's, like, I mean, I've been friendly to other people, like Friendsgiving. I went to my friend's Friendsgiving, and then there was a girl outside and she was lost. And then me and my other friends literally brought her into the Friendsgiving, and like she's in our picture, which is very cool. Like she was like in our Friendsgiving picture and like and stuff like that. But more so just like I think I've been more friendly to myself, and by being more kind and like I've like to myself, it has allowed me to like see that like I have people who I love. And I think sometimes it's hard to see that when you're so when like societal's version of shame brings you down, and while Aristotle's version of shame just allows you to like just be introspective, to like do good and be better. Yes, thank you so much. This was a really fun exercise, and I apologize the fact that this video is 27 minutes.